Right. Happy Thursday, everybody. How you
Happy
doing,
Thursday.
O'Grady, Lee?
Doing well.
Surviving the
Happy
week.
Thursday.
I'm tired.
I'm
I'm
very
listening to be
tired.
honest. It's already been a long week.
It has
One
been.
more day to go.
Yeah, the good news is it's almost done.
True.
Yep. All right. So everyone else tuning in here, welcome to Ready Set Data. I'm glad you guys can join us. I'm looking forward to some interaction in the chat room. Um, we have O'Grady, our software engineer. Let me see which way I have to point. This is always a challenge for me. And then we have Lee Markham, the database administrator. I'm Anthony Fortner, data engineer. Um, Tonight we are talking about what makes a good boss. I think it's something that almost all of us can talk about. You know, if you're employed, you have a boss. If you're self-employed, you are the boss. It's still important to know what makes a good boss because you might have employees.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, how to be
without
that good boss, not just,
how,
you know.
yeah, right. If you're not a good boss, then you have unhappy employees, and they will probably leave, especially in this environment. I think I
I
just
just realized something. I missed a great
ooh
opportunity. I have that
oh
Vader shirt where he's reading the book about how to be a good boss. Dang
oh
it.
Nice.
really? Well, that's it. We have to scrap the whole thing and start over. You have to go get the
Yeah.
shirt.
I
Uh,
think I saw that same book when he was reading it to Luke, like how to be a good dad too. I'm like, hit
uh,
missed the mark on that one.
yeah. Well, maybe share a picture in Discord later. On that note, everybody, we have a Discord. If you're new around these parts, or you're checking us out on
If you're
LinkedIn,
new around these parts
YouTube.
here, you
If
cowboys,
you're
we got
if you're
Discord.
checking us out on YouTube, post to YouTube. We have a Discord channel, so should be in the comments below. If you're here live on Twitch, and I said Twitch, I did not say Twitter, so I'm doing pretty good so far. That's
One
in the
for
chat.
two. One for two. You're doing good.
That's right, 50-50. At this point, it's a 50-50 chance. 60% of the time, it works every time.
Exactly.
So, guys, what makes a good boss? Does anybody want to go first, or you want me just to kick it off?
And there's a
Who?
lot of different routes you can
Well,
take here. So
okay,
I'd like to hear your take on
okay.
kind of
Well, I'm
what
gonna, I'm
you're
gonna lead with empathy.
okay.
The first trait I want to lead with is empathy. Understanding what other people are feeling. You know, it's your employees, your teammates, however you want to word that, aren't machines. They have feelings. Those feelings today. I think it's very important that you make a mental note of how they're doing. Um, and on that note, you won't know that unless you check in with them. So, you have to without you know um, hogging all their time because you also want them to get some stuff done, and they probably want to get some stuff done. But you got to check in with them, talk to them, and figure out what they're feeling. So
Yeah, I like that one. 100%.
yeah, you guys ever had a boss who was not empathetic? I said empathetic, not pathetic,
I
not
have plenty of pathetic bosses.
empathetic.
What? Um yeah, 100%. I think I mean the big part of empathy is, understanding someone else's situation from your own self. And I think a lot of times I'll speak this from a father's point of view. I'm a dad. So when I have something that is child related that's I need to leave work for, or hey, just got a call from school, got to go pick up the kid, he's sick, or whatever happened, I feel like I've had bosses who were not parents, who have never been in that situation of, and it's obviously no fault to them, that's everybody do their own thing, but if you're not able to empathize with someone who has a different lifestyle than you and understand that uh, yeah, I guess ultimately my decisions have brought me to where I am, and I love it. But I've had bosses to where they're like, "Well, make sure you put your time in for leaving to go get your son from school." I'm like, not a problem. Company policy, sure. But then you have those bosses also that say, "Well, if you're leaving like 20 minutes early, go. No, go get your kid. It's fine." So I mean,
Or
that's obviously one
hey,
perspective, but
yeah, or you've been here, you have a 50-hour week. Who cares about the hour? You said 20 minutes, but who cares about the
well, yeah,
hour, right? It's just like, yeah,
Mhm.
have a good one. See you tomorrow.
Yeah. You work through lunch every day. I see that. Who cares? Go leave
You should
whenever you
probably
want. You're a
start
grown
that.
adult.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, there's someone in
Lee,
chat,
Lee, how about
Spirit
you?
Guide. Oh, we must not be in sync. I feel like I'm talking over you guys. I apologize.
Maybe a
You
little
want to go
bit
ahead, Lee,
delay.
and we do Spirit Guide?
We can keep going. Spirit
Just
guide. Let's hear from him.
yeah. So he says, yes, when I worked in banking, always would yell and belittle people in front of others. Other managers either encouraged it or tolerated it, which, let's be honest, is almost as bad.
Yeah.
That's toxic.
That brings up a great, almost separate topic of not really separate topic, but second quality of a boss is being able to stand up for when you see something's wrong. Sometimes as a lower employee, you don't have the pool or you don't feel you have the pool because you don't want to lose your job. I mean, we've all been there. So when there's a good boss or a good manager, they're the ones that they might not even be yours, but they'll step in when they see another manager or anybody doing something that, obviously is going to demoralize the team.
It's true. I just realized that my all of my little notes are very like team centric, like boss and their team. But you're right. A good boss, a good manager, whatever word you want to do. A lot of times people like to say there's a difference between boss and leader. A good leader
Yep.
um, would probably be protective of other people, so to speak. At least when there's toxicity,
Yeah.
things that corrode away at the culture. You don't have good culture, it's all going to go. It's all going downhill. And
It's like yogurt.
um, yeah. Now I'm hungry. Thanks.
Well,
Uh,
yogurt, if you don't have good culture, no, come
yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah.
You're both dads. You should get that.
Granola would be good too. But anyway, speaking of texture, the um,
we got like 4 minutes in,
Empathy.
guys. That was good. That was good.
that was
Sorry, that
good.
was all me, but that was
So
good. All right, continue.
culture, it gets corroded, and you need people to stand up for the culture and stand up for the employees. And sometimes, if there's a manager or leader is doing something that's not okay, another manager or leader to say something, whether in private or or out loud, or I don't know. It just yeah. So I think that's a good point, O'Grady.
And I think, yeah, like you said, in private or out loud, sometimes if it's let's say, a spirit situation there, in my opinion, a good manager would call him out right there and be like, no, that is not how this is done, and pull him aside if he wants to talk to him further. But like, stop the confrontation, get him, and then deal with however you want to deal with your, management style. Sometimes some people like to do one-on-one management style. Some people like to do public. Yep. But yeah, in that case, if I saw someone and they pulled a manager aside who was being inappropriate, I'd be like, that one is a good manager. He just de-escalated the situation. Employees are happy again. Everybody's back to work. Like,
Hopefully, on track to be happy again.
or
Yeah, a
happy
lot of
that the
times when if
situation is
someone's
over. We'll say that.
yeah, yeah. If you got somebody, especially someone in power, literally berating people, belittling people, um, yelling in that kind of situation, that's usually the damage doesn't get healed immediately. Is all I'm trying to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. I can see that.
So, um, I feel like that leads to my second bullet point: kindness. Um, you can make arguments that someone can be a good boss or whatnot, um, if they just check the boxes and make sure things get done. But I think a good boss or effective leader um, is kind to others, and that matches exactly what we just talked about, right? Um, I mean, we're just talking about be a decent person, right? Like,
Yeah.
don't So if you don't, I guess it's hard to like really quantify this. If you don't know what it means to be kind, I don't mean overly nice. I mean overly flowery
I would say there is a
words
distinction
for
between kind and nice and letting someone step on them. There's so it's like
yeah.
I feel
Don't
like
yeah. Not, we're
kind
not
is
saying give you a
the
pushover. Yeah.
yeah, kind is like that implies with like the empathy that you um like the caring part, I think. Where I think nice doesn't necessarily have to be a quality boss. Of course, I come from a different background of management
Yeah.
style.
Yeah. Understood.
Military,
Um.
none of my management was nice, but they were all dedicated to making sure that I was always taken care of and all that kind of stuff. So it was like
Yeah.
I consider them good bosses, but like they were kind. As in like let's say I something happened, home or whatever, something happened or let's say grandpa died. They were kind as in, "Oh, is everything okay? Let's make sure you're taken care of." But then afterwards it's like, "Okay, yeah, now go do your job." I'm like, "Okay. Like, I can deal with that."
I'm not. I'm not English major, so I can't be pedantic and say, well, that's the difference between kindness and niceness. But
I'm
I
just
don't even
always
know that.
playing devil advocate.
In my head, it kind of say makes sense, right? You can be kind without just being an overly nice person.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think there's a distinction there. That's okay. I'm thinking of Leroy Gibbs from NCIS. You can say he's a kind person, but then again, he's probably a bad example because I'm pretty sure he hits one of his employees in the back of the head on a regular basis. So maybe that wasn't the best one. Um,
Yeah, or like what's his
oh,
name from Parks and Rec? Um, Ron Swanson. If you watch, I don't know if you guys have watched Parks and Rec.
I want to. I've seen clips,
You
so
need
you
to.
have to paint a picture for me.
Well, the whole thing is
Maybe
he's
need
like
to
this
leave your time.
rugged um, woodworker, manly man, right? He's just like the definition of
Yeah,
what a man is. And it's funny because in real life he also is. So he's just like sitting, like he's not acting.
the
But
stereotypical.
yeah, he's like a super kind person. But like when people talk to him, it comes off as almost abrasive because he's just like the typical
Yeah,
lumberjack manly man.
there's a distinction between being tough does not mean you can't be kind, right?
Yeah,
And there's plenty of examples of that in media. Latch on to sometimes the more toxic ones and they go, see, this is why toughness is not kind of thing.
yeah.
So
But no, I agree. Yeah. Does anybody have any examples of times that a boss may have been unkind and maybe how it affected people?
um yeah, so I've definitely worked with managers who would um like a spare guy said, I had to actually look at the screen in order to get the name right, who would be little other people. And then um if you work with someone like that, then you stop wanting to talk, you stop wanting to bring up anything, you try to keep your head down. It's oh yeah, it's like middle school again, you got a bully, and then you just want to keep to yourself and you know
Yeah.
get as much done as possible without drawing too much of their attention, and get the heck out of there.
I
And
think that
eventually you get the heck out of there, right?
I said that I think that's the key,
Eventually.
right? If you're in that situation, you should be maintaining yourself until you can get out of that situation. Obviously we have to maintain a paycheck sometimes, but work toward not being in that situation.
Yeah, I can hear people saying money's not everything, take care of yourself, and I agree,
Yeah.
but I've
But
definitely been there where
we
you
have
gotta
bills.
like hold on tight for a little while and figure out how to get out. So
Well, yeah,
yeah.
we've all been there. So what's another one you got there, Anthony?
All right, so I would say that a good boss, so all leaders or a boss or your manager is striving for success, right? To my bullet point. My bullet point is because bad ones are trying to be successful too, right? My bullet point is success building people up, not tearing them down. So if your success means that you have to tear down one of your employees, one of the people who aren't on your team, a coworker, another manager, if that's your key to success, you here's your sign. You're probably not a good boss, right? Um,
Or
so yeah,
person.
leaders build people up. They don't tear them down. What'd you say?
I said or person in general, but yeah.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. The two aren't the distinction's not very far apart, right? Two aren't very far.
Never step on someone to get ahead. Even if you
Yeah.
never regret it, it's the chances of you regretting it are a lot higher than the chances of you not regretting it. Because that person could be your boss one day. You know, you never know. Never
That's
burn
very true.
bridges.
Um, yeah, and I feel like that also has a correlate. I don't know if you can opine on that, O'Grady, but the military thing too, right? Like, we me as a civvy, I just see movies and have conversations with people, right? But I have the mental image like a lot of people in boot camp. It's a lot of yelling, and when you're deployed, I understand there's a lot of shenanigans in between any action you get,
There
but
is.
I would imagine that a good leader there is definitely still, regardless of what's going on, building up his men as opposed to
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
tearing
Because
them down.
yeah, we'd be deployed in. So we like when I went to Afghanistan, they put us off in groups of 4 to 6 people usually. I'd make my way around the teams because I was the communications manager or communications chief, I guess. And yeah, each team had an officer on the team, and then usually one non-commissioned officer, like a sergeant, and then a couple younger uh, corporals and lower ranks. And it was a family unit. Like honestly, you're living together 9 months. Rank kind of disappears a little bit because do I have to call you sir every
Sorority.
day? Like I see you. You're the only. There's only 5 of us here. I'm calling you sir. Like, can we not? So a lot of that you get a lot closer, and manage. The term management it no longer applies at one point. Until you get back to the states, and then everything has to be reversed. You have to reverse your thinking again. This is now a captain. This is now an officer. I need to say sir. I need to salute. So a little different, but I think in general, the key elements of what makes a manager a good manager is going to be cross over to any field.
Right. That's why sometimes people switch over the word leader.
Yeah, we have actually in the military we had leadership traits, and we had to memorize them all. And it was JJ did tie buckle was how we remembered them, and
JJ did tie buckle.
that's an acronym. And
I assume so.
it's like judgment, justice, discipline, integrity, dependability. I'm a terrible Marine, but whatever. I don't remember them all. But like every barracks you went to, they'd always have them on the stairs. So like each stair would be a different leadership trait because they try to train all of us to be leaders so that when a leader doesn't, if a leader gets shot, well, you're the leader now. So everybody's supposed to be, as much of a ready to be a leader as possible.
Yeah. I am number one now. That's a Star Trek reference. Anyway, yeah. So justice, judgment, dependability, initiative, decisiveness, decisiveness, tact,
Tact.
integrity,
Tact's a huge one,
enthusiasm.
actually. That could be any field.
Yeah. Integrity, enthusiasm, bearing. Wow, there's a lot here.
Yeah,
This could have been our list.
it could have
This
been.
100% could have been a list. Unselfishness, courage, knowledge,
We'll see what always threw
loyalty,
me off about this stupid
trust.
acronym is that they have the same letter multiple places in the acronym multiple times. And you're like,
Yeah,
you can't do
yeah.
that. That's not how
Yeah.
acronyms
Like
work. But yeah, slight segue, but I
you
mean,
say, did you
help also give you something to look
endurance
at.
sometime?
Yeah.
What's up, Lee?
I was just gonna say the first couple of things focused on character traits, which I thought was interesting. I didn't think about character traits at all. I thought about actions, things that a leader or a good boss does or does not do, and that's totally fine. I certainly agree that character or character traits feeds actions. I mean, what people do or don't do is based on their character traits. It's based on their personality. So I like empathy. I like the idea of a good boss needs to be kind. I like the idea of a good boss sees success as building people up versus running over people on their way up.
Yeah.
And
Goombaing
that
people.
sort of thing.
No Goombas.
Yeah.
We are we are not the stepping stones.
Right.
But no, 100% I agree. It's yeah.
What else do you have in your list?
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying
I
to make
think
sure
we should talk. I would say I think we should talk about
Go on.
tact because that was brought up, and I'm not sure
Do
if
it.
it's on your
Do
list
it.
or not.
It's not
Okay.
on my list, so yes, bring it. That was a good one.
So that's one that I would never have thought of if I didn't bring that part up. But it's huge. I mean, anything you do, especially negative news, is going to hugely impact someone's day that you're bringing this news to. Especially if it's a boss, someone above you. If it's a peer, they're bringing you bad news, like, hey, you have to do this part of the. Okay, whatever. But if it's a boss bringing you bad news, probably not the best news. So if they do that without proper tact, without giving you that kind of preemptive setup to know that it's going to be bad news you're about to hear, to present it in a way that has an action plan following it. Something that's actionable instead of here's what you're doing wrong, fix it. If it's not brought in that manner, you're going to lose employees. Like it's not productive. So.
Susie leaves the company, Johnny leaves the company. They walk up to you and go, "Hey, guess what, loser? You gotta take care of their stuff now. Sucks to be you." Then yeah, that's not a great experience.
And you're like, that doesn't make me want to stay here.
No. I think I have to go get some milk.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the gas station. I'll be right back.
Yeah. I gotta go get some smokes. Wait, you don't smoke?
I do now. I have to do everybody's job.
I definitely think tact is important because you do have to deliver unpleasant news sometimes. I was a manager at a security company, and I had a group of 12 people, 12-ish, that reported to me. And what we did was life safety. We protected people's homes and businesses, and in some cases, based on what the circumstances were, maybe their lives. So we had an SOP that we had to follow, standard operating procedure. You get this kind of an alarm, this is what you do. And there are all kinds of sometimes special instructions in those situations. It can get difficult. And phones are ringing, your phone is ringing, phones are ringing around you, so it's not conducive to concentration. The environment is not.
Yeah.
And so people make mistakes. People do things that they shouldn't do. Um, because of the sum of all of the things I just talked about. And sometimes people make mistakes because they just genuinely don't know what they're supposed to do. That's a completely different scenario, but I was empathetic to people on my team when they made mistakes because it's natural to make mistakes. But in that situation, when you're dealing with them, you have to have a sense of what to say or do or what not to say or what not to do. You know, you can't just bring a person into an office and say, uh, "O'Grady, why did you mess up that fire alarm? You're supposed to call the fire department first on commercial fire alarms. Why did you call the premises?" Just that makes people feel beat up.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh
and
yeah.
in that scenario, by the time, and maybe in many scenarios, and you probably have examples, O'Grady, the person usually knows or sometimes knows they've already made a mistake. So what is the point of beating them up about it? Instead you come
Yeah.
at it at, hey, O'Grady, you usually do a great job, but I do need to talk to you about this fire alarm that you handled at 2 o'clock this afternoon for XYZ customer. There was an issue with it. And sometimes they know, a lot of times sometimes they know, sometimes they don't. Um, but that's a much better way to start a conversation that is not going to be
Yeah, exactly.
pleasant. And I tried to end it with, don't let this one mistake mess up the rest of your day. Stay concentrated, stay focused, and do the job that I know you're capable of doing. Let's get out there and finish off the shift today and do it well. Um,
Yeah, that's
that's
productive.
an example of
Yeah.
tact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, walked away with an action plan, knows what happened, but not feeling like they're gonna not do anything the rest of the day because now they're in their own head. You know.
Yeah.
No, I think that's an appropriate. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Where a lot of us are not in that situation, and we hear, well, currently I'm in that situation, and my bosses are awesome, and I'm not just saying that because we're live, but I really am super happy right now with our management and how they're the respect that's shown is ridiculous, in a good way. But I've been in those situations, um, yeah, not healthy at all.
And tact can be learned. I
Oh yeah,
wasn't,
Takes
and I'm
practice.
thinking, yeah, it takes practice. It definitely does. I think back to when I first became a supervisor at that role, or in that role at that company. Um, Tact would not have been a word that someone would have used about me. Leah's not tactful. That would have been what they said. But I had a boss, and several other levels up. I had a boss who was very tactful, and he wanted to mentor and coach people who wanted to get better.
mm.
And
Great.
so I learned a lot from him. Uh, you know, Sometimes he would bring me into his office, and I'm thinking about a person that I actually made cry once, um,
We've all been there.
and say, you know, when you said X this way to X person, that didn't have the intended effects. That wasn't good. And so we talked about it, and I learned how to say unpleasant things to people.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
there's classes, there's books. If you really think, or if you've been told that maybe you lack tact, like you did, you correct it. Like you're a smart individual. Someone tells you that you're lacking in an area, find some resources and let's correct
yeah.
that area. And yeah,
And I
Yeah,
don't know if
it's
you have
true.
this on your list, but we should maybe bring up at some point, and maybe that's now, the topic of, or idea of,
or don't.
emotional intelligence.
Oh
Do
my
it.
God, can we talk about that? Is that allowed?
Yes, let's do it.
In fact, after you
So
talk about it, there could also be an entire show. But yeah,
Could
go ahead,
be an
Dave.
it
entire
could,
show of
yeah.
emotional intelligence, not only in the bosses, but in your peers and your boss's bosses
And your
and their bosses.
friends and
Yeah,
your
I mean,
strangers.
some people are really good with their emotions. They know what they're feeling, and they have more than 4 or 5 words that they use to identify those feelings. Some people aren't good at that, and so all they know is they're angry or frustrated or whatever, and um, or they're irritated, they're whatever they're feeling, and lack of emotional intelligence can feed into not having tact, and the berating and the yelling that Spirit brought up earlier. That's an example of a lack of emotional intelligence. The person is allowing their own emotion to override what's supposed to be happening in the moment, and they're essentially being a bad human being to other people as a result.
Yeah.
Um, it can be a tough thing depending on your personality, a whole number of things. But so yeah, emotional intelligence. What do you guys think about that topic? Just as how it plays into the overall subject.
I think that plays into a
Yeah.
lot of our subjects we've had,
Yeah.
honestly.
But on this one, I
Yeah.
completely agree.
Hmm.
Or if you're managing a team or you're just leading a team, emotional intelligence is very important because that's somewhat related to what I said of empathy, understanding what people think. Spirit Guide says, I think it's also an organizational thing. I agree with that. Um, that's maybe even harder, right? Like knowing how 100 people are going to feel about what you're going to send out an email, a memo. Um, that as opposed to like this conversation, I have luxury of seeing you guys, and it makes it easier for me to assess what you're feeling. If I'm,
Yeah.
oh yeah, Lee looks sad. Maybe I'm saying it too angrily. O'Grady looks like he's sharpening a knife. I probably should calm down. Uh,
Looking
so
around, I
because
don't
of
have one
because
within reach, or else that would have been like perfect. Like,
see, so I don't normally call O'Grady a liar, but I'm 99% sure there is one under the beard. But you didn't hear that from me. Uh,
I've done that before, where we all used to work. When I worked
I'm not
in the
surprised.
first part, when I was still in the
Yeah.
lab,
Mm-hmm.
um, there was a couple of us that were trying. Like, my beard was still pretty long at that point, but there were some other people trying to grow, and they were like, "Oh, look at my beard!" I'm like, "Oh, it's looking good." So I just clipped my knife right here, and went up to them, and because I forgot they were trying to open or something, but I was like, "Oh, I gotcha," and I pulled it out, and they're like,
That's awesome.
they were so mad. I'm like, "No, your
Sometimes
beard
you
still
are
looks
your
good though."
own meme.
Yeah.
You're like a character. I love the fact that I didn't know that story, and I just made it sounds like an O'Grady thing to do. And you know what? He did it. He patented it. It's an NFT now.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
emotional intelligence is important. Oh, go on.
Oh,
well, I
continue. Yeah.
realized that we were all assuming that we mean the same thing when I say emotional intelligence. What are we even talking about? What does that mean?
So to me, that means that they're one kind of like Anthony said, where they're able to control their emotions, or maybe you said that. But two, to me, it also means like not just able to control it as far as like being angry at people or yelling at people, but like accepting an idea. Um, if you're that guy who always is arguing about an idea, well, if you're always arguing about that idea, unless you're the best there is at your job, you probably have a lack of some emotional intelligence because you're not sensing that you are always the one doing this. Like you're always putting yourself, I guess, as the fighting position. And it wears on teammates. I will tell you that. If you are not emotionally intelligent enough to have conversations and discussions that aren't arguments, it wears on your teammates very quickly. And that might just be with me, but I'm not assuming it's not. Um, and I think especially with video conferencing, it wasn't as bad in person, which is funny because you would think that communication would be better when you're sitting here always staring at the person you're talking to. Um, but I think that makes the disagreements, you're able to see them actually acting out their arguments, whereas a lot of times in when we're in the doing development, you don't get animated as much when you're disagreeing with someone because you're in a working environment, you're in a building. We were wearing slacks and button ups. It's not a time to be like adamantly angry. And I feel
Right.
like there's
Yeah.
more of this now that we're all at home. People feel more free to express their opinion, whether it's correct or not, in an argumentative manner instead of a collaborative. So that's something teams have to work on and build through. If that made
That's
sense.
true.
That was a lot of talking.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
and that makes a lot of no. That's all. That's all great. I think that the picture painting I feel makes a lot of sense because when we're in person, there's a lot of parts of our caveman or cavewoman brains that like are trained to pick up body language and stuff that we may not even realize, right? You know have a high emotional intelligence. You do kind of know when someone's mad, right? It's part of your survival instinct. In modern world, they're probably not going to attack you physically, well, hopefully. But you still want to know that, like, oh, I think I'm making somebody mad, or oh, I'm coming in too strong. On these calls, sometimes people don't even have the cameras on.
Yeah.
And even if they do, you might be looking at your note. I might be looking at Lee, and I have no idea that O'Grady is absolutely beside himself right now. All those little mannerisms people have, their eyebrows, and then they're clenching the jaw. Like if I'm looking at a square,
sitting like this, like this is as much you can get. Like when you see someone in a meeting, like this is as much emotional projection sometimes you'll get from people. It's like not very workable. I'm like, you're mad?
Yeah.
Or you're watching something else on another screen? I don't it's one of those.
I feel called out right now. That's nothing, guys. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lee, you asked, what is it? And so I went ahead and I Googled it, and I see some words we already used. If it's okay, health.harvard.edu.
Mm-hmm.
You might have heard of Harvard.
They can throw it in the chat if you want.
Okay, I will. It's a Pluralsight course I'm getting the quote from, believe it or not. No, it's not. Pluralsight's above that. In a nutshell, emotional intelligence refers to the ability to identify and regulate our own emotions, to recognize the emotions of other people and feel empathy towards them, and to use these abilities to communicate effectively and build healthy, productive relationships to others. So I think that fits everything we just said very well.
God, Google always saying it better than we do.
Yeah, or finding someone who does.
Well, we've talked about pretty much all of those things. We just weren't calling it emotional intelligence.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of cool, right?
Well, and I think that's a big distinction too, is that we are talking about emotional intelligence. These people, a lot of times, these people are very intelligent, very smart, accolades type of people. That doesn't, just because you're growing your intellect doesn't mean you're growing your emotional intellect. If that's not practiced, if that's not worked on, it's never going to get better.
It's a skill like anything else. I tend to call everything a muscle.
Muscle memory at that.
Yeah, you gotta practice it. You gotta get used to it. You gotta know. I think earlier Lee said something that kind of jumped out to me, and I know I just read it, but Lee said it first, and it had different meaning when he did it. Like some people don't even realize what they're feeling at the moment. Like I've definitely been in calls where two engineers. The one I'm remembering, there wasn't two engineers, but just two professionals on a call. Well, there's three because I was there. If you want to call me professional, shrug.
So there's two professionals there. Okay, we're good.
They were getting heated. It was getting really tense on this call, and I just remember realizing, like, I don't even think they realize. I think they're both reacting, the other one getting tense, and we have an escalation here, right? And that's not easy to do. It's not. It's like you said, O'Grady. It's a learned ability that takes time, and like any ability, you never really necessarily master it. So, yeah.
And that brings up a good point, though. Like you said, there's three of you on the call, and two are arguing. And I feel like when you're in this virtual world, which again, I'm all work from home. We've had half of, I don't know how many streams talk about it. So I love it. But there are those hurdles, like not realizing the people in the room because you're not seeing them. And I've had times when two team members are arguing and there's 4 or 5 of us on the call, and we're like, just kind of waiting it out. We're like, you guys, like, we're ready to move on. It's not even related to the topic anymore. And you're like,
Yeah.
Come on.
And there's other skills you can learn to bring that down to de-escalate. And it's tricky. Sometimes you're not the big man in that conversation, so you're like, all right, mom and dad are fighting, and how do you fix that,
So
right?
that's how I currently feel when it happens, because I've only been here for
You feel
less
like
than
mommy daddy's
6 months,
fighting, yeah, and it's
So I'm
Yeah.
like,
so
I'm just gonna sit this one back.
let me pause for a moment while I have flashbacks. No.
Oh
Anyway, anything else on that?
God. No, I
Okay.
think that covered it
All
pretty
right.
good.
I think so.
All right, so I got another one here. Give employees trust, don't make them earn it. I know not everyone will agree with that. I can see people saying that you have to earn trust, so on and so forth. But
I
if
agree
you
with
hired
both
somebody,
sides of that. Yeah,
yeah,
but
like I said, I can see somebody saying it.
I'll step on a second. Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, I feel like if you've hired somebody, then you at least owe them a certain amount of space to do what they need to do. If you didn't trust them at all, if something's wrong on day zero, you probably should have hired them, right? I know sometimes other people hire them, but um, yeah, just you if you want to be a good leader, you have to be able to let them, give them what they need from day one to get the job done, and within the realm of reason,
Well, yeah.
you give them trust. Obviously, day one, you don't. There's people who have jobs that affect lives. You obviously don't say, okay, we're going to pretend you're fully trained on this, blah blah blah. But treating them like an idiot on day one. Maybe
Yeah.
they're not don't treat them like a third grader, or
They don't
don't
get
assume
SQL
everything
admin
that is
rights
up
on
to
day
you.
one.
Depends on where you work. Oh, too soon. Okay. Yeah. So, any thoughts on that? Like, I think
So
at least one of you
yeah.
wants to play
Um.
devil's advocate on that one.
Yeah. So I was just gonna say, I was letting you say what you wanted because I
Good.
assumed. I feel like me and you have similar styles on what we would like from management. Um. And I'm sure Lee also, but you know, we're the more the peons. You're already kind of the management. But no, I was gonna say that there is that you have to have a base level of trust. You have to say, hey, everybody starts at this base level of trust. We hired you. You went through an interview process. Yeah, we trust you enough that you can work here, like you said. Um, I think there, I think trust should be earned on top of that. Um, some employees keep a base level, which is fine. Some there's some employees you have a base level of trust. You maybe don't know them as well, you haven't worked with them as much, but you trust them because they work at your company and you trust they know their job. But then there's employees that do above and beyond, or that get into special projects with you, or these different things that we've done in the past or that you've seen in the past. That
Saved your rear end.
yeah, it's like sometimes one person on a team needs to have these privileges that I'm going to trust them more than everyone else on the team because they've shown themselves to be trustable, more than the base. That being said, I also believe you can go down from that base very quickly. You can recover, but I think there's nothing wrong with uh, taking someone's permissions away in a certain type of application, or lowering their SQL permissions to be earned back. Not as like a punishment or anything, but to show, okay, well, it's fine. We made mistakes, but let's get these classes going. Maybe let's reevaluate this in 2 months, see how your skills are, add your permissions back, and if you need additional help, let us know. That kind of thing. So I don't know. That's my take on it. I think that always should be base level. You can earn more, but you can also lose it. So
Yeah, the bank analogy I think works pretty well here, with the caveat that withdrawals tend to be bigger than deposits. So someone starts with a certain amount of trust and they do things that add deposits to that trust bucket, and then you do things with withdrawal, but you got to be careful. Um, Things that mess up trust tend to take much larger withdrawals any deposit will make usually. So
Yeah.
not to get side railed on that, just thought that was
So you can go into a whole life lesson about that one. That does not just apply for
yeah,
jobs. That
like
applies for
yeah,
everything in your life. If anybody's listening out there that doesn't know that yet, take that to heart. You can lose trust a lot faster than you can gain it.
I've been in situations where I've been through the interview. We got me hired. I show up and I start trying to work, and I don't have access to everything, or I only have read access. And I'm like, I'm the company's only database administrator. Like, don't you trust me? I mean, you did just hire me. You want me to administer your stuff, but I either can't get to all of it or I can only read the information. So that felt a little weird when that happened to me. Um, and that was a
Let's say
smaller
at
environment.
that point, who, since you're the one like in charge of all the servers, who would be the one restricting access in a normal company situation to the DBAs,
Well,
as in
so in my
management wise?
case, yeah, I mean, so there was I would have to assume it was the person who hired me. He was over the entire IT department, so he had developers and then me, and then there was a help desk person. Um, so I can only assume that that person didn't give me all the permissions.
So from a
And
trust
when I
standpoint, it's
asked
the
about it,
hiring manager, correct?
yeah, he was the hiring manager. Um, yeah, he was a hiring manager. I mean, I brought it up to him, and he changed the permissions, and I don't know if it was, I don't, it didn't come across to me as a scenario where it was just something he forgot to do. It kind of felt on purpose, which I thought was weird. I'm like, I'm your only DBA. Of course, I have to be able to read and write data. I have to be able to change settings on SQL servers and that sort of stuff. So I was like, what are you doing? I can't. If you want me to do my job, I have to have a little more permissions than this.
yeah,
Um,
So
now,
what was your path? Let's say I'm thinking of scenarios for chat here. So they go to a job, they realize that they don't have permissions that they think they should. They feel like that's a base level of trust. Um, you approached with tact, I'm assuming, as we just discussed. But what would be your advice to someone going through that, being like, I just started here, but they don't trust me with the basics?
yeah, it's a good question. So I guess I would encourage someone to approach it this way. Is the lack of access impeding the tasks that you currently have to do or that you know are coming up immediately in the immediate future? The answer to that is yes. Then you approach it that way with whoever your boss is. Hey, boss, I realize this is day 2 or 3. It's pretty early. Just want to let you know I did try some of my permissions. I have a couple of things I'm supposed to be able to do here, and it doesn't look like I can do them. I got this error message when I tried to run this script, or I couldn't get onto this server, or whatever it is, and I need that in order to do this task. That's how I would approach it. Hopefully, it's just uh, hopefully it wasn't a purposeful slight or trying to keep a stranglehold on you, but more of an oversight. There's the word I'm looking
Yep.
for. It's just an oversight. And I know permission sometimes takes a while to get in place, when you start a new
Oh
job.
yeah.
So, no, hopefully that's all it is.
I'm still
yeah,
asking for permissions to certain things when it pops up. So
yeah.
every now and then I'm like, what? I don't even know what this is. They're like, oh, you have to ask for permission to get it. Like, okay.
Yeah, and we're covering like very IT specific things right now, like
It's true.
permission levels and access levels. what can you RDP into, what can you not. But there's also the interpersonal kind of trust, right? Like, you know, is this person have good good intentions in what they're doing? Can I rely on them?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and ironically enough, those are also important things that your manager or your leader would have. Um, if you're going to be a good leader for your crew, whether or not you're on the org chart as a manager or not, they need to have that level of trust with you, right? And a lot of times trust goes both ways.
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
I am not going to be a good leader for you two if I um, don't make you feel like you can rely on me. When stuff hits the fan, you know that maybe I won't be able to protect you, but I'll try. And if I can't protect you, I'll be in there with you to get us out, right? Um, if I'm doing something that's strange or different, and I can't talk about it, or I should say, and I can talk about that makes it seem weird, but like the situations at work, we're mostly
Yeah.
talking about work, but this can be elsewhere, and things are being. If you don't trust that leader, you don't have that understanding, it can be a very stressful event. If you trust the leader and you know that they have the best intentions for you, then it's easier to handle those awkward, long times where changes are coming. You know they are, but it doesn't happen. Um, and that happens a lot, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like that you say that you can trust them to have your back. Like you said, either they're going to do their best to help you get out of whatever situation you're in, or they're going to be there fighting for you. Um, Obviously, we know not every situation a boss can win for you. Sometimes, depending on what it is, you may either, if you're getting in trouble or if you're trying to get a promotion that you want, or um, even if it's just a salary increase or anything that a boss might help you with. Yeah, a good boss is going to be in the trenches with you, making sure that you're getting treated fairly. Um, Usually before they even think about themselves being treated fairly. So
Right.
it's
And I
good.
like how you mentioned the promotion because that brings up a good point. Sometimes, someone let's say someone So let's say someone on your team, has an opportunity to get promoted. Um, there are times where, people can say, well, if that person gets promoted, then you won't. Or they're going to be a future competitor. Um, if you got someone's back, then you're going to be happy for them and you're going to help them succeed, help them get it and build it up. Yeah. Sometimes you truly are both going for the same position, right?
Oh yeah.
But if you're
Oh
someone's
yeah.
boss, you're probably not.
No.
You're someone's boss and they want to be a boss as well, or take some form of leadership or leave your team. Definitely helping them do so is a good thing. I actually, I kind of like the story. I had a manager at one point, a boss at one point, who had a football on his desk. Oh man, it would be cool if somehow he heard this story. But anyway, I doubt he's watching. But he had a football on his desk, right? What does that do anything? Whenever someone got promoted, they got something better. What they had nothing. It could have nothing to do with his department or anything like that.
Yeah.
He'd have them sign the football, and so his football is
Oh,
with signatures. Not of sports people, but people that were once with him
that's
and
awesome. Actually,
now have moved up somewhere else. And I thought that was really cool.
so these were people from his team that moved on.
Yes,
Oh, that's awesome.
yes,
Coffee
and
in with the
so
I
follow.
love it.
Thanks,
yeah, I
buddy.
mean, so it's like, and then so you looked at all of them. Hey, Coffee Stigo. So you look at it, you can tell his names, and of course, he could tell you who that was, where they went, what they did, and
Oh, that's a really
yeah,
cool idea.
Nice.
See, like that kind of stuff, I feel like also adds to be a good boss. Like the thoughtfulness of thinking about your team, not only while they're there, but while they're gone, once they leave you. Um, I don't know. I feel like a good boss should be someone who's always trying to get people off of his team or her team. But
Oh, I've gotten people off of
yeah,
my team before.
I mean in a positive manner, Lee.
Okay.
Oh, job kicks don't count. Yeah,
As
so I
in
feel like that's
trying to get
another.
them further in their career and further in their life if they want it. Sometimes people are very happy just being on a team and, you know,
Yeah.
just being a developer like me or being, whatever. Sometimes there's
The
not a whole lot of
phrase,
rates you can go up, um, pay rates,
Yeah, for sure.
but not always promotion rates. So,
especially in a small company.
yeah.
The phrase "you work for your employees; they don't work for you" comes to mind. Or I had a manager recently who said all the time, the servant leader.
Yep.
Yeah. So um, those
Like
those
that.
two phrases come to mind. That's another sign of a good boss, right? You're working for your team. Um, Not as much they're working for you. Are you
Yep.
guys good on time? How are
Yeah.
we feeling?
I'm good.
I'm
Um,
fine for now.
I don't
Awesome. And you know
think I
what? You guys
have
answered very quickly.
I
So
don't
my
have a hard
next bullet
cutoff.
point is okay. My next bullet point is decisiveness. Reach decisions quickly. I feel like this is another one that you can easily argue against, rightfully so, because you do want someone to be thoughtful with their actions,
Well, yeah.
thoughtful for those decisions. But for me, maybe this is a personal need of mine. Um, Even though you need to be thoughtful, the sense of urgency, the fact that like we have to make this decision. Yes, it's a multi-day decision, but we're not going to make it take 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Um, Getting those decisions quickly is important for lead. There's an iceberg. What do you do? Things are IT. Systems are
Mm-hmm.
down. Things are down. What do you do? Those decisions are very helpful because they
Yeah.
twofold there. One, they lead the team to dodge the iceberg, to realize that there was an outage today, and the realize that actually finding out the problem, solving the problem in this case wasn't nearly as important as getting um, X double digit number of employees back to work, right? So they can get to work, right?
Yeah.
So the second fold of that is when you are decisive and you do those things very quickly, um, again, thoughtfully, of course, um, then you end up training them up. People realize in this situation, this is a situation where getting things up is important. This is a situation where semicolon pause. This is a situation
Oh,
where
sorry, I thought we were going
um,
into a medical commercial about a blue pill. But continue.
uh, where you realize that it's right now it's important to pause and assess the situation and
Mm-hmm.
figure out some things before you get the lights back on. Um, that's an art almost, right? So when you're a manager or lead of any kind, it's good to be able to thoughtfully make decisions in a timely enough fashion that you can be a good example to the others around you.
I think there's a quote. I don't want to mess it up because I know I'm going to. But it's something about, I always forget how it's said. But it's like it's not if you make the right or wrong choice. It's that you made a choice.
This episode of Star Trek Next Generation that comes to mind whenever this comes up, and that is uh, Picard and the Doctor are on some planet, and they have chips in their head to keep them from getting too far apart. Typical prison scenario, right? And over time, it causes their thoughts to mingle. And they were somewhere, and they're like,
Remember that
"Oh, where do we go
episode?
next?" Picard looks around and goes, "We need to head this way. We're heading east, or whatever he said, right?" I go, it's typical. We're going this way, and they go, and then she goes, "Wait a minute, you don't actually know, do you?" And so it's like,
Yeah.
well, no, I had to make a
Well, no.
decision, and
Yeah.
you have to,
Mm-hmm.
in order for he didn't, because I can't quote the show, but basically, if you act lost and confused and everything else, in those kind of situations, the people who are following you will also be lost and confused. Well, if he doesn't know what to do,
Yep.
we're in trouble. So
100%. We run into that with I would say daily with programming. I'm sure you
troubleshooting.
guys do as well, just because like there's multiple ways to do everything. Like we know this. That's the
Mhm.
development world that we live in, you can do stuff 100 different ways. So a lot of
That's just
times,
VS Code.
right? So we'll be at an impasse that we have 2 different ideas or 3 different ideas, and we'll be sitting talking about them of which one's going to be the correct one when we could have implemented all 3 of those ideas and tested and seen which one was producing the fastest results or whatever we're looking for at the time. By the time we were finished with the conversation of which one we want to do, where we
Right.
should have just,
Yeah.
you make that choice, we're going this way. Okay. That didn't work. Next, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So,
So
very
like
real life situations.
the leader in that, yeah, then the leader in that situation, of course, would hear all the options and then eventually just got to make a call.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if I told you about
Some
our
people are better at dealing.
No, go ahead.
Hardly.
Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good.
I was gonna say some people are better at dealing with multiple things coming at them at one time than others. Some people are really overwhelmed by that. Um, so, and again, I think it's a skill that you learn for people who get overwhelmed. You know, maybe you take a few deep breaths. You walk away for a few minutes if you can.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're heading directly for an iceberg, you can't walk away for a few minutes. But we're not
I mean, you
talking about life and
can.
death
Oops.
at the moment.
Hold on. I lost my camera.
So if you can take a pause and just figure out, you know, get yourself settled a little bit and then try to objectively look at the 3 things. If you can't make a decision, like you said, then just pick something and move forward.
Yeah.
I think some people can be so afraid of failure that they're paralyzed. They don't want to pick the wrong thing. They don't want to make a mistake. And so in that situation, somebody's got to do something, you know.
I agree. Anthony, did we lose you or we just lose your video?
Seems like he's gone. Yeah,
Like,
he's gone.
no, he said just the
Oh, here
video.
we go.
He can hear. Oh, and he's
There
back.
we go.
I mean, can you guys hear me?
Hey, we're good. Or we're goodish.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Sure. Yeah. No, I was there. I just whatever happened with the cameras and the switching around led to me losing
Yeah.
my outward video, but I was connected. Everything
Yeah.
said it said it was fine.
That's all right.
I don't know.
You're good. You're good.
Roll with the punches.
Yeah.
Only way to
So,
do it.
yeah, sometimes you just got to make decisions and move on. And if you make a decision, you realize later it was the wrong one. Just you own that and you say, if you can, the choose something else.
Yeah.
It's about all you can do.
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
else we got?
Yeah.
All right. So we mentioned people leaving teams. Um, this next one's kind of a tough one. It's definitely less of a leadership thing and definitely a management thing. Um, sometimes people get let go. There's
Mhm.
lots of different ways to handle it. The first one, I feel like I think early days. We mentioned the show at one point in time. I reported to Lee, right? Early days, he made sure he made a statement roughly about this. I'm not going to put words in his mouth. If he wants to talk, what he can. But bullet point number one I have under when people get let go is make sure the firing is not a surprise, right? If someone's getting let go and they didn't see it coming, um, then you've probably failed as a manager, as a lead, as a boss, whatever.
Agree with that.
So
Yes.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that plays into also the empathy kind of role too, because when you let someone go, that's their livelihood. Like surprising someone with that obviously isn't thinking about their needs as a person. Um, if you give someone, and let's preface this with the fact that it's not a you did a security breach and blah blah blah, and you screwed the company over, or something like that. This
Yeah,
is a
but
normal.
performance issues or
Yeah,
culture fits or
yeah,
things where like yes, there's valid reasons to let someone
Yeah.
go, but we're not talking about
yeah.
you were
I
the
just want
person
to
screaming at people or
preface
yeah.
that first and be like, no, don't keep a toxic
Yeah.
person just because they're trying to, get an easy job. Like some people need to just be like,
Yeah.
you're gone. But in a standard situation, yeah, always think about, livelihood and how you're going to affect that person. It needs to come in play.
Right. Yeah. So I probably have, I don't know, around 10 years or so management experience, people reporting to me. I didn't always have the ability to fire those persons, but certainly I had influence over that in a particular scenario I'm thinking of. So at one time I was insane enough to be a boss at both jobs I had. um,
That sounds stressful.
Now,
Yeah.
well, kind of.
Did you fire someone from the
It
wrong
was
job?
two completely different environments. No,
You're fired. Wait, that was the
but
other Jordan.
yeah, this ties into something I was going to say is that about setting expectations with employees,
Yeah.
which is when someone would come onto my team at the call center job, um, I would always have a conversation with them before they actually started for me. So there was a training period, and then they would be introduced to whoever their new boss was.
Okay.
And then their start date on that team would start. So I always had a conversation with them and laid out what they should expect. And one of those things was I have several things that we can talk about later, but one of them was I'm going to give you enough regular feedback that the information that you get on a review will not be a surprise.
Which is huge.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it is. I think it's important. And the other thing that would occur was as in this particular role, I was responsible for dealing out or doling out disciplinary action. There was
Well, yeah.
a process that you stepped through, that sort of thing. And I was clear with those folks. You're just like you're not going to be surprised on a review. You weren't going to be surprised if I fired you either, because you knew exactly where you were at every moment along the journey. Are
Yeah.
you at level one? You made a tiny mistake that's not a big deal, but I've got to do something.
Hmm.
If you kept making that mistake, now we're going to have another conversation. If you keep making the mistake, I'm
Yeah.
going to say, Grady, we've had two other conversations about this. On this day, this happened again with this customer. This is a final warning. If this happens again within X days, I'm going to have to let you go.
Yeah.
I
I
don't want
think
to do that, but
that's
this is where we're
understandable.
at.
Yeah.
And so, and it also, good managers also have to be able to handle not just that conversation with the person they're on the path to letting go, or even I've now let someone go. They also have to be able to handle the conversation with the team who's left behind.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but I get a little freaked out when somebody in or around my team is fired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
And
I feel that.
yeah, and I think being a good manager, we talk about, you know, uh, being giving people regular feedback
Hmm.
so they know where they're standing. And I would always remind my team. A lot of times, we would have group discussion, not about the specifics, because they know that someone's been let go. But
Yeah.
I would say,
Yeah.
look, guys, this happens. We have to move forward. There's not a reason to be nervous. Everyone on the team knows exactly where they stand. with me and with the company because I try to make that clear for you. Meaning, the other part I don't say is, you know if you should be nervous or not.
Yeah.
To help them go, okay, I'm not on any disciplinary action. Lee tells me great things about my work. I can, let a sigh of relief. I'm not in trouble. Is it traumatic?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but my job is not at risk.
Yeah.
I need to focus and move on. And it's too bad for that person. I don't know.
No, yeah, that I agree. And as you discussed
Absolutely.
that, you're saying you're giving them that feedback. So it shouldn't be a surprise to them. If it is, that's on them. I don't think you have to say, hey, you're fired, but you can work your 2 more weeks. I think that it should be like Anthony said, it's not a surprise, but it doesn't mean you they get extended time or you're letting them know and then they get a leave. It's that regular feedback that's super helpful.
Yeah, again, we said it earlier, but I'll say it again. We're not talking about someone's violent or
Well, no.
they
Yeah.
stole, or I mean, maybe even if they stole, but there's certain things that no bueno, you're
Yep.
done. You can't stay. So we're not talking about those. We're talking about kind of performance, interpersonal. And another thing I want to double down on that Lee was saying. He's talking about talking to them, and it also isn't just about them being nervous or whatever. There's also sometimes they understand why the person was let go, but that person was still probably a friend, right? Not always, but a lot of times at work, we got our work companions
Oh
are
yeah.
our friends,
Yeah.
and so when
I mean, three of us are
it's
sitting
good
here,
when
aren't we?
yeah, 100%.
You know.
And a lot of times, I think a good, this is not even on my list, but a good manager understands that. When we had someone on our team get let go, there was a lot of conversations afterwards where they're like, hey, this particular person in leadership was like, hey, fully realizes that this has an effect on you guys, not just the workload. We'll address the workload stuff, yada yada yada. But obviously, this is going to have an effect on you guys. So we need to have some conversations. We need to do whatever. You let us know what you need, so on and so forth. So it was nice that was mentioned. It's not just,
Oh yeah.
well, I realize your workload's going to go up, so if you need to stay a little later. No, it's like, hey, yeah, this sucks.
Yeah, it brings in that empathy,
People,
like you were saying. Yeah.
yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So the next on the same subject of people getting let go, I was reading something that I thought was really interesting. So this feels above and beyond, but what is right? This is great right here. The person who was talking about people getting let go, number one was making sure it's not a surprise. They have two more points. Number two, helping the employee you terminated land a job elsewhere. So again, we're not talking about someone's violent or just bad, but like they're not a good fit or not working, whatever. When you tell them, hey, we're gonna end your contract in a month, we're gonna let you go in 2 weeks, like this the person was asserting you can still help them. Like, okay, well, if we can handle having still a professional relationship, what can I do to help you next place? Like I read that and I was like, wow, I feel bad that I didn't think about that. Like usually we let people go or you're let go, it's
Mm-hmm.
awkward. It's like, oh, okay. Usually they hand you a box and they throw you out. Um, so yeah, I just thought this really interesting, like that they would still spend time helping that person transition.
Yeah.
And number three, unless you guys had something on that.
Now, I was just gonna say that also should apply to transitioning within the same company.
Yeah,
There's
Yeah,
a lot of times a
I
better
agree.
fit in the company for this person, or even another team, or it could be a team dynamics thing. It could be that they're not the best at the current technology they're working on. So, I think good management or a good boss could say, I get your skill sets. I understand your flaws or your holes in
we're
education,
like this, but
Yeah.
we'll work good together over here. So let's make that happen.
Yeah. Which
Um,
I see that being, I see it happen all the time at my company, not in a negative way, but when people want to move to other parts of the company, it's very open. So
And then number 3, I felt like should have been obvious, and it isn't always handled well. Sometimes it is. And inside the company, usually I think most places are good about it. Working with the exiting employee on the departure narrative, right?
like how they're going to tell others what happened.
Yeah, okay, so this isn't working out, for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of being like, we bleep can them, or I remember one time I was working my desk, and then the person who sat behind me got grabbed by management, like grabbed. We tell it so differently. It was time for the one-on-one. So, hey, you ready to go? Yeah, they go. They go to the one-on-one. Another manager walks by. I don't really think anything of it. And then, someone who's in my peripheral was looking over there. I knew something was going on. So I look, and they're packing up that person's stuff. And I was like, wow, they just went in a one-on-one. Like, hey, we're here for your one-on-one, and they were letting you go. Like, that's,
Yeah.
wow. But the person in the article was saying, when you're letting somebody go, you can build up a narrative with them where it's like we're not a good fit, blah blah blah. Especially in certain professions where it's like oh Grady, you just said go into another department. Like hey, they're going over there. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
They're going to report to Susie, and it's going to be a great fit. And like there's ways to not say like the jerk left us.
Yeah. Or you can even throw in, he's going to be an awesome asset to have over there. So if we need anything, we have a direct contact that we know, so we can have someone to work with, and yeah, you can definitely spin it positive. At least that's the in work transfer. So how would you, or do they have examples on a good narrative that could be spun positively in a firing situation?
No, they didn't give examples, but
so let's come up with one.
Let's come up with one. Okay.
All right.
So
I'm getting fired.
Instead of, hey, it's within the realm of possibility. If you have a lot of trust, maybe they're not a good fit and they have trust, then you say, go. Okay, I actually have a real life example. It took a second.
Okay.
We've talked about work from home stuff a lot. I do know somebody who office, and the company said, well, this isn't going to work out, right? But they said, hang tight, you're a great asset. So this example of they're letting somebody go, and it's not because they did something absolutely horrible. It's empathy. They understood the situation. And like, you're a great you're a great employee. We trust you to keep working while you're looking for a job. If you want to stick around for a while you look, let's work that out. And they did, and that person stuck around for a while, and found another place that was a good fit, and that's a great thing, right? Like that's a good thing for a manager to do, to say, okay, yeah, because of this reason we have to let you go. But it's not personal, and technically it's not even professional, it's rules. So let's help you go to the next place. That's a gold star right there.
Yeah. I mean, that's,
I
feel like that's above and beyond a manager, but that is good manager. Obviously, a good manager should be a little bit above and beyond a standard manager. So.
100%. I have one more. So I was going to ask, do you guys have anything you want to say, do before? And if not, then we can look for a raid when I do the one more.
Yeah, no, you can. Yeah. Okay. I can start looking for that raid while you do that one.
Yeah, let's do that. So yeah, the last one was, and this is also from Gary V. Being a great, because this is almost like a verbatim quote from one of his videos, so that's why I felt the need to make sure I say that. Being a great boss means you reverse engineer your employees, not employees conforming to the boss. So I thought that was really telling. Like, you're not trying to reprogram your people to work like you do. You, in order to be a good boss, an okay boss might find a way for to change them a little bit. You have to work this way. You have to do this. But a great boss will find ways to reverse engineer how they tick, understand how they work, and have that because you hired a person to do a job, they're professional, they know how to do the job.
Yep.
Find a way for you to manage them in a way that allows them to get things done, right? Extreme example, and I know this won't work for everybody, but it's some, I have more than one person that I know would thrive in the situation. Um, the person doesn't have the same time management skills as everyone else, or they tend to work more in evenings and night, and they don't necessarily function as well during the day. Let them show up to the meetings during the day and work at night, right? I've seen it. I've seen it in
Mhm.
places that can't do that, and then the person ends up not working out, even though they would have been great. And I've seen it in places where the employer's like, I don't care.
Yep.
Like, just show up on time to meetings, and you do your work when you do your work, and let's hit our goals and let's set good expectations, and So I think that's an example of that. Like, yeah, you might be 7 to 4, 9 to 5, and that person might be, I'll show up during the day to meetings, but I don't get productive until the birds go to sleep.
Yeah. I think that's goes into our one of our shows we had about interviewing and like looking for the proper job. We talked about making sure your hours are something that that's something that you need to be looking for. And if a my thing about your scenario is if that wasn't set up beforehand, as in the letting the company know like these are the hours I work, this is what I prefer, and agreed upon by both parties, I feel like it's kind of underhanded to put that onto the company afterwards.
I can understand that,
If you
and
understand that.
I pulled that. I had to pull a real life example. I guess I didn't have to, but it felt
No, I mean,
natural for me to, because I've seen when it didn't work, and I've seen when it worked, right?
yeah.
But other situations, this might be the way people record tasks, the way people work
Mm-hmm.
on tasks. I know people who, um, one problem kind of person. They chew on a bone until it's done, and they move on. And I know
Yep.
people who have to clear the palette and jump off a task, like, I'm done with this. I'm gonna start on something else, and they work on that thing, and then they can come back to it. And if you can't handle one of those scenarios, um, and you're the manager, that causes strife, right? If you're one of those and they're
Yeah.
the other, right? So
I have an
you're now
example.
cool.
So at organization I was at, they had an agile Kanban kind of way of managing things.
Scrum
Uh,
fall.
Scrum ban.
and yeah. um, so that requires a different kind. So that's one kind of software. And I didn't have exposure to that. I had exposure to Office 365 from a previous job where I had to find some way of organizing my work. There wasn't a way at that job. So I was like, okay, what do I have? So I signed into Microsoft Office 365 and I found this thing called Planner, which is now called To Do, which is now called Tasks, and will be called something else next week probably because Microsoft loves to rename things.
Hey, at
But
least they keep them up, unlike Google, who shuts them down after 3 weeks. Moving
yeah,
on.
that's true. That's true. Uh, but so my boss, well, I had everything in Office 365 Planner, and I loved it. I was used to it. I knew what to do with it, and I knew how to manage tasks in it. And my boss at the time was like, "That's totally fine. You and your team want to use that. It works for you. Great." I wasn't forced to
Yeah.
abandon that to move into something that I had no idea what it was. That would have annoyed me, and yeah, it would have annoyed me.
Would have been a
So
more difficult transition for you
Oh
if
yeah.
you had to change the way
right,
you mind map your tasks.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I have a raid set up, ready. Just to give you a heads up, ready when you guys are.
All right. Well, in that case, thank you guys for watching. We appreciate the people who are talking in chat. feel free to look us up on YouTube if you miss a show. And please, please, please hang out on Discord. We're around all the time. We don't just only exist when we do a show. Um, Thanks for watching. Let's go with the raid.
Drop that Discord link into the chat here. Make sure everybody goes and jumps in. And like Anthony said, follow us on Twitter. We'll keep the up to date on any stream changes or whatever stream related
more
stuff.
shows.
It's a lot more likely we'll do it, or you'll get the information faster in the Discord. So jump in there, go hang out, and we're gonna go raid Be More. He's a buddy. He's playing the new Elden Ring. I don't know if you guys have played it / seen it yet. But it's like Dark Souls mixed with The Hobbit. I don't know.
I've heard about it a lot. People seem to be really into it.
It's pretty intense.
How much one trick pony? I'm playing Metroid right now. So
yeah, it's a very unforgiving game, as Dark Souls is. You miss one jump, you die, and then you start the whole fight over. Like if you don't dodge properly and they swing in their axe at that time, like you have to time it all. Oh, yeah. It's super.
Other games
it's cool to watch.
An axe and a sword, and you have 3 arrows in you, and you're like, it's a flesh wound.
Well, and I feel like I don't know if it's one that I would play, because I'm more of a chill, sit back and chill kind of gamer usually. Whereas this one is a very heart racing. It's a thriller.
I enjoy those games. Like I'm playing Metroid Dread right now, and when you go into the Emmy rooms where you have this thing is hunting you down, that's so much more powerful than you that you can't.
Yeah.
You can't fight it. You really can't fight it. So you have to like sneak around, and it'll find you at some point. It's intense, and I love it, especially when it almost gets you. Yeah.
You're like a little kid running from the boogeyman again. Yeah.
Pretty much.
But that being said, also thank you to all viewers who stopped by Saturday when we did the raid race. That was just gaming with buds. So I mean, if you join the Discord and you game as well, hit me up. I was thinking about doing a gaming session on here. Let me know what you guys think about that, and having a viewer interaction while we're gaming, and I think that'd be fun at some point. So
I think that's an awesome idea.
Yeah. So go check out the Discord. Make sure you yell at us enough that we do it. So
yeah.
All right. So let's go check out Be More, and we will catch you all later.
Bye, everybody.